good afternoon. Is it good morning over there? Or
It is mid-morning, my friend, about 10 a.m.
yeah,
Nice and sunny, 26 degrees. I'll just
yeah.
rub that
Wow.
in.
So for anyone watching, this is the legend Huggy.
That's me, a legend in my own lunchtime.
Yeah, and we said we'd start with like, how did you get into house music?
Yeah, well, I from Wakefield, West Yorkshire, before I got my Manchester connection. I used to go to a nightclub in Wakefield when I was 16 called Casanovas,
Yeah,
and there was a DJ there. I'm friends with him on Facebook. His name's Keith Armitage, but he used to go, his DJ handle was Keith Peters.
yeah,
And he used to play all this proto-house before house even came out, 1985, Italo disco, 1984. So I got a good serving of that from this guy. I ended up working in this place, being a glass collector. And then I don't know how I blagged that, because 16, you're supposed to be 18 working in a club.
yeah.
Somehow I blagged it, and then I worked behind the bar. But I used to be always running up to him. Oh, what's this? What's this tune, mate? And it kind of gave me a good stepping stone when they brought house music there. They brought over Adonis, Frankie Knuckles, Kevin Irwin, Fingers Inc. in 1987. I think there was a Tracks Road show.
What's
And I
that?
went and oh, it was brilliant. I was blown away with all that, especially Tracks Records. That was
Yeah,
my first helping of house music. Yeah.
yeah. I didn't realize that they do tracks records travel to Wakefield. I always just think of Manchester and London and maybe Nottingham,
Oh
but
yeah, because there was a lot of the when I was into house music, it was way before raving. It was all jazz fusion dance crews to be wearing the spats. I think Broken Glass from Manchester were a dance crew.
yeah,
We had our own because they came from Bradford, Huddersfield, some from Leeds, but it was mainly that end. And they'd be doing all these jazz funk moves. And
yeah.
big track of the day back then was Hanson and Davis Tonight, the dub. Man, that was a ripper. That was a
I'm not
really
to
good
listen to
track.
that. What
Yeah.
year was that? That track was at 87.
It No, this was 85.
I don't know that track. I'm gonna have to like
Yeah,
listen to it
it's
now.
a little pre-house. I'm showing my age now, but they call it proto-house before that. It's a straight 4/4 kick drum in most parts, but it's got that electronic component to it that
Yeah.
house evolved to.
I think
Yeah.
Jack the Groove was one of the first that I can't remember what I heard first, whether it was Father Jack Master Funk or Jack the Groove. I can't remember which one I heard first.
My first house track I ever bought was Sleazy D, I've Lost
Oh
Control,
wow, yeah.
on Trax Records. In 1986, it had a black Trax label.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I'd heard a 303 acid sound on that track. It was even before it was called acid house music. That came a year later, but that's the first time I heard that bubbling, chirping, squeaking sound of a 303, and it was on that Sleazy D. And it came with all the cracklings on the vinyl because it was all recycled vinyl. And it was a great time to be in. And then after that, I kind of got exposed to the raves, not up in the north of England. I actually moved to London in 88. And that's when I started going to like energy rave off the M25 orbital,
Yeah.
Sunrise, and all these. And I started hearing all these Balearic tracks that, you just didn't hear them up north.
Yeah.
And that kind of gave me a little insight to what were going on down there. But absolutely, I first started raving down south in London. It wasn't up north. I did that later at the Blackburn, but it was down around those energy parties.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm dying to ask you, but I've not checked whether I can ask you uh, about your first pill. Or can we talk about that? Or just
Yeah.
leave that
Yeah.
out?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've all done it, haven't we? Crikey Moses. Probably well, 1988, they were giving me blotters, and
I
that's
forgot about that. Yeah.
yeah, first time I kind of experienced that. Probably about 1989, yeah, at one of these raves. I can't remember which, but it was around that time.
I'm jumping forward a bit there then, aren't I? Um, what that was the same as me, you know. I took acid at first, but I was kind of a bit scared of ecstasy, so I didn't take it till later on.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
they've all done it, and our parents have probably done it in the 60s, and it's
yeah,
just everybody goes through it.
yeah.
God knows what they're doing nowadays.
Oh, they have like ketamine, don't they?
Oh,
Yeah,
what's that? Horse tranquilizer.
yeah. I never got. I still can't understand that. So how did you arrive in Manchester?
So when I started DJing at the Orbit, well, actually, let me backpedal a little bit.
Yeah.
I got a DJ gig at a club in Blackpool when Shaboom was on. It was called Eureka.
Oh, I remember that.
Yep, it was Martin Lever and my mate Jeff who did that night, and they let me DJ. And we used to travel over from Wakefield. There'd be a crew of us, me, Dave Beer, Boggy, James Holroyd. We used to have a policeman come with us, and he always wore a balaclava because he didn't want to get identified, but he was a raving copper called Merv.
Yeah.
And then we had the guitarist out at Sisters of Mercy. He was one of Dave. He came with us, so we'd get into a van and we'd go over to Eureka. And I actually got a DJing gig there. I remember playing Outlander in there, you know, the R&S record, Outlander, first time it ever come out. And from there, I met John Berry, who was also DJing at Eureka. And, you know, there was him and Mike Kerwin from Illustrious fame.
Yeah.
And we got on like a house on fire, me and John, because, you know, I was like an encyclopedia with all these house music. It was just, I could reel off names and who produced it and what label it was on. And one day he goes, I was working as a postman then. I was DJing on a night at a place called Exclusive in Batley. Richard Elliott put that night on, and that was a Thursday night, and that was a proper little rave up in West Yorkshire. And then John Berry goes, "Do you want a job at Eastern Bloc?" You know, I'd always held Eastern Bloc in like, oh, because it was the best place you could get tunes. And we used to travel over the Pennines to go buying records there. And he was offering me a job, and I was like, oh, yeah, yeah. So I ditched the post office, much to my mother's chagrin, and ended up working there. And I took over Andy Dubb Federation's job. He was leaving, going on to other things. And I took over Andy E's job, and I'll never forget Andy E. First time he met me, and I've been rambling on. He goes, "Huggy, you're a mind of useless information." Always remember that.
I
Tickles me.
do. Looks a bit like him then, the way he talks.
Yeah, he's got a character as Andy. He's a good
Yeah.
lad. I haven't seen him for years, but I've seen him on the videos. And
Yeah.
you know, I picked up a sweeping broom and started first thing in the block. I was sweeping round the record bins and just sweeping up. You know, I didn't know what else to do. And uh, my mate Richard Biff, he was working there. We became the dynamic duo, and he took me under his wing and introduced me to all kinds of alternative music. He was a big Balearic head. I was getting all these tunes I would have never, ever have thought of getting. And we had access to it, you know, there were promos coming in. It was brilliant, mate. It was like a golden years.
Yeah. That's kind of like just listening to you now, almost like a breeding ground for DJs, wasn't it? Because
Oh, crikey, yeah.
music was new. There wasn't anywhere else you could get it really.
No,
And it was like massive fans of the music all
yeah,
worked there, didn't they, and hung about there.
yeah.
And loads of people went on to be big DJs, didn't they, from from
Yeah.
working or going in that shop.
Yeah, we served tons of DJs in there that are well known. We used to get, obviously, Sasha would be coming in and get his own little private stack about this big, go down in the basement. Obviously, people locally like Justin Robertson, Weatherall. Oh, man, there was just all of them. I remember first meeting Darren Emerson in Eastern Bloc and all that Boys Own crew who used to come up from London. I got to meet all that lot who did Venus in Nottingham and eventually Basics, back to Basics when that got going. Um, I remember serving the Chemical Brothers before they were even a band. There were a couple of students, Tom and Ed, and they
Yeah.
always used to stand in the far left corner, right near the speaker where me and Biff were, and we'd just play them music, and they'd be spending all their measly student stipend on imports. But
Did they
yeah,
used to work
yeah,
at
we got the first. Sorry,
concerts?
mate.
Did they do concerts, them the Chemical Brothers? I don't know whether I've heard that story right in the past. Because downstairs in the Square Albert in Manchester,
Mm.
someone who went on to be big DJ there, and I always get it mixed up. Like I'm thinking it might have been the Chemical Brothers, but um,
Might have been because they were called the Dust Brothers then, and I remember when we got their first recording, "Song to the Siren," which Weatherall did a mix of. Um, we'd have all these white labels under counter. We were so picky, we'd only give them to who we liked, and that's just how it was. We used to cover up records. How sad is that? We used to
yeah,
cover them up because we didn't want people to know what it was. That's just how it was.
yeah,
You needed to be the DJ who was playing the most remote track that everybody wanted a copy of, and then there'd be these mythical titles of records that people would hear about. They're like, "How do we get a copy of this?" I remember one called Funk Express, and there was one guy in London called Oscar. I think he worked at Trax Records, and he was somebody who could just get anything. And he was a mate of Richard Biffle, and he brought these Funk Express into Eastern Bloc, and everybody's going mad. And I don't know if you get that kind of excitement now, but I remember it well. It was fantastic.
yeah. Do you know Gildy when I did a video with him?
Yeah.
He he rang the number on the Trax Records, and it was a shop in Chicago, his actual shop, and then
Yeah.
Benji Espinola, is it? Or the guy who owned it, he answered the
I think it
phone.
was Vincent Lawrence or somebody like that who owned
Yeah.
it. He actually did all the bootleg record review bootlegs, and there were a famous one, Robin Wants Revenge.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
It said
Yeah,
made in Canada, but it were a bit of a red herring that because he didn't want it to know it had been pressed in America. And it was the guy from Trax Records who were bootlegging all that stuff. I once did a little bit of digging, and there's a series of record review bootlegs. You can see them on Discogs, and it's got all the famous Italo tracks from Chicago. And I think that Robin Wants Revenge was called, well, Frankly, My Son, the original, and it was from London. And nobody ever knows who did the original.
yeah,
I've searched and searched, and nobody will give a definitive answer who did that track. But I think it's someone from London or Frankie Bones.
yeah.
Mhm.
Wow. When you were working at Eastern Bloc and living in Manchester, was you DJing at any of the Manchester clubs?
Yeah, I was actually. There used to be a promoter called Ross. I can't remember his last name, and Elton Jackson worked with him. Hi, Elton.
Yeah.
And we did a Friday night there. It was kind of more of a techno-y vibe. I remember Weatherall was one of the first guests. I can't remember the name of the club. And yeah, I used to DJ a bit because I was working in Eastern Bloc, and I'd get promoters coming in and getting some gigs. So I did a few round. There used to be one little bar club that was on the same row as the Hacienda. You walked a little further down. I remember doing a
Bar
gig
38.
there. It might have been.
The venue.
It might have been. I can't remember.
It was the venue, bar 38, the Brick House, the Ritz, uh, and there was a club next to the Hacienda, wasn't there? Jackie's, I think that was called. and it used to be a
Yeah.
structure night on a Thursday.
Yeah. I remember having a ding dong in Dry Bar with Chris Needs and Throb out of Primal Scream. You know, you used to get people like that walking into the block and so you want to go get a pint at Dry Bar because it was right at the side of Eastern Bloc and you'd finish your shift and go in and meet them all and just have a, a right old ding dong.
A lot of people know you from Back to Basics.
Yeah.
Was you there right at the start of it, or
No, I was a resident DJ at the Orbit, which was a big rave mecca club in West Yorkshire.
yeah,
I got John Berry, I put his name forward for a resident DJ, and they took up, that's how John got, you know, that job because we were tight knit. And I used to do the Orbit at Ossett at first, which was total madness. It was like a sweat pit in there, and it was just crammed to the rafters. And then that got closed down, probably safety, local residents, and it moved over to the After Dark at Morley. So I was fortunate to DJ at both venues of the Orbit. It kind of veered off into a techno club. We used to play techno, but it was a bit of a mix of everything. I played, and John played house and techno and some Italian stuff. But it went predominantly techno, which was great, and it's got some diehard fans. And sadly, Basics was going then, which was just Ralph Lawson and Dave Beer, and they started it in the Music Factory with Ali Cook, who was also a mate of mine from Wakefield. Uh, God bless Ali. And sadly, he and Ralph's girlfriend at the time, Josh, they died in a car accident on the way to Slam up in
that?
Scotland. Yeah. So we were all shocked with that and rallied round. And Dave, he used to bill me at first. I'd get the odd gig at Basics, but he didn't want to associate me with being a rave DJ.
Yeah,
So he used to call because that wasn't the clientele punters he was shooting for. He wanted smart shoes and fancy shirts and, you know, John Richmond or whatever it's called, Destroy, all that lot. And he billed me as the postie because I was a postman, remember? So
yeah,
I'm on a Basics flyer somewhere with the postie. Funny as hell.
yeah,
And eventually Dave said, look, do you want to DJ? I'd started DJing more at Basics. I first started in the upstairs funk room. So I'd be playing a mad Belgian techno set at the Orbit in Morley, get in a car with my mates, drive over from Morley to Leeds, and then I'd be playing a Balearic funk set upstairs at Basics. So it was such a contrast then, but
yeah.
I loved it, man. I loved it. And eventually Dave says, you know, why don't you just become a resident for me, you know, take over Ali's job. And he knew I was more into techno and techie house before it was called tech house. And it just organically progressed that way. And I was resident in that techno bunker, they called it. And that was a madhouse down at Basics when I started doing that techno bunker. There's people have so many good memories of that. All the first time we heard Star Dancer down there, Red Planet. First time we heard Teste, The Wipe. I could go on and on of all these amazing techno tracks that got rinsed in there.
Yeah. What
Yeah,
I was at Leeds University, Trinity and All Saints. I think it was 1993. Um, and Back to Basics had just moved, and I think it was was it the pleasure rooms?
yeah.
Yeah,
That was the second venue after the Music Factory closed.
yeah, that's when I went, and then I went to the Orbit when that had moved, and that had moved to Morley, and
Yeah.
that's one of the maddest clubs I've ever been in.
Oh, yeah. It was
Everyone's-
crackers,
yeah,
bonkers, mate.
and people used to go out early, so
Yeah.
it's different to Manchester because um, all the bouncers look like they're on steroids
Yeah.
in the clubs, and then but in the orbit, like we got there about 8:30 in the evening, I think, and then there was people out of the brains, and like
Yeah.
one woman and someone saying to me, "Don't make eye contact. She's paranoid as fuck." And God, it's only 8:30. That's Sven Vath played there that night.
Yeah. So Papa Sven, that's what
Yeah,
they all call him. Yeah, I think I might have just on tail end. I got to play with Orbit people like no, it wasn't Jeff Mills, and they came on for they even used to have Weatherall and Justin Robertson play at the Orbit. They tried to kind of veer into those that style of DJ there, but um I think Dave Angel, he was one of my favorites that I DJ'd with at the Orbit. Dave Angel, he's a cracking producer and DJ.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember because I was in Hall's residence, and then I'd stopped buying records because all my money was going on pills, and then and they were expensive imports, but like mixtapes became the thing, and then in
Yeah.
the halls everyone would have a mixtape, and I can't remember, I don't think the DJs were superstars yet in '93 or so like people like Weatherall and I'm sure I've been in clubs that I've not it's not been a big thing for me that they're
Yeah.
playing. Um, but I can't remember when it was, but DJs just became absolutely massive, didn't they? Like,
Yeah. They started getting that way, I think I recall was mid 90s, and you'd have some big hitters from London. Weatherall was always big. He was huge at basics. He'd always pull a crowd. Fabi Paras, he was massive. Darren Emerson of Underworld fame. Rocky and Diesel, DOP. We Dave Beer first brought over Doc Martin and Josh Wink to basics. Nobody'd heard of them.
yeah,
And he brought those guys in. This were Music Factory days before Pleasure Rooms. Pleasure Rooms kind of veered more into your Danny Tenaglias and your Francois Kevorkian, and a lot more US DJs who were more well known then. But at the Music Factory, it was a lot of English talent. Oh, David Holmes from Ireland, he was another one. But yeah, that's kind of what was occurring then, what I remember anyway.
do you know, since I started doing these videos, I had no idea how deep the Manchester Leeds connection was.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I had no idea. Like first discovered it really through doing a video with Gouldy, and then Tony Hannon's name came up, and then
yeah, Tony.
and Jackie, she knew Tony, and then she knew China, and then all these names kept coming up, and then like Dave Beer was a big promoter,
Yeah,
there was that. It was a lot deeper than I realised the Leeds Manchester connection.
yeah, it was. I mean, a lot of the people I met in Eastern Bloc, obviously, they used to go to basics. I got a lot of friends in Manchester. Used to be a guy called Chiz. Um, he DJ'd at basics. We used to get jam MCs from Manchester. Chris. I can't remember his last name, Chris. He had dreadlocks and he was a drummer. He's from Manchester. He used to come over and do. So we'd actually get a lot of Manchester talent because we knew him from E Block, and I'd get him over at Basics. I'd be like, "Hey, Dave, you got to get this fella on," and so we'd get a lot of that talent. And obviously, my mate Boggy's lived in Manchester since early 90s. He's from Wakefield, but he lives there. He worked, I think he worked at Vinyl Exchange. So we had a real tight knit pair, all of us in that area.
We- Did you ever? I'm just curious now. Like, did you ever go? 'Cause I'm guessing you're a big techno fan. Did you ever
Yeah.
go over to Detroit, or did?
No, there's one place I've not been. Actually, I've DJ'd in Detroit. What am I talking about? Totally forgot. Yeah. But I didn't go to the one place I wanted to go, which is Underground Resistance Museum. They
Oh,
do
what is
some,
this the museum?
yeah, they've got like I think they've got some old Motown stuff in there that were given to them because Tamla Motown's from Detroit, but they've got like all original drum machines that they made all these epic underground resistance tracks on. There's a lot of history in that, man, and I have utmost respect for Mad Mike Banks and that underground resistance crew. They never sold out to the commercialized. I really appreciate that, and the music speaks volumes, man. It's amazing. They've done house tracks, techno, it's just all over the shop, but it's just their sound. They've done something that's just amazing.
Yeah. And do you know there's a dance, you'll be looking at this after, there's a YouTube channel and there was a show called The New Dance Show and
Hmm.
it was in Detroit, but it
Uh-huh.
was going from about it might have been going from 1985 and then it's a bit cheesy, it's people dancing and
Yeah.
but the music's incredible, like it's like Model 500, no UFOs
Oh yeah, Juan Atkins.
came out.
It's like the early Chicago pioneers. They got influence from like Italo disco tracks in the 80s. There was a famous radio show in Chicago. I can't remember the name of it now. KR something or other. And that's where Ron Hardy and all those people used to hear tracks and then they'd emulate and mix them and reel to reel them and they'd be producing and they got all their influence. Same in Detroit, yeah.
Yeah. I would have loved to have gone to Chicago as well when it was all coming out.
Oh, I've been many times. Love that
Oh
place.
yeah,
I've DJed there. Yeah, I've got a gramophone records. Well, I've lived in America now 28 years. I've been fortunate. I've DJed a lot of states while I've lived over here. When I first moved here in 97, I used to do quite a lot of gigging around, fly over to California with my mate Tony Hewitt. He'd putting parties on there in San Francisco. My mate Justin Long in Chicago, New York. It was great, man. It was really good.
yeah. Billy Caldwell, he went to New York, didn't he? And
I've no idea.
yeah, he's like, I think he might be a big DJ over there.
Yeah, I've
Um,
heard of Billy. Hmm.
yeah. But where did you like? How how did your career evolve then? Like as a DJ from the orbit, did you go on like mid 90s? What did you go on to do then?
Yeah, just it was great. Obviously, back to basics was a stepping stone. Used to get a lot of gigs with my affiliation with Basics, and I used to DJ with Ralph a lot. My mate Ralph Lawson,
Yeah.
one of my best mates. He was best man at my wedding.
Was
I'm
it?
best man at his wedding,
Yeah.
and I always, make go see Ralph when I go, which I'm going back home next week to do the Basics 34th birthday. So we're meeting up with all the old residents, and um, it's just great that they're all still doing it. I love it. Uh, I used to DJ all over UK, went over to Europe, all over. And then my first American DJ gig was in Gainesville at a place called Simon's, which is a legendary rave club in Florida.
Yeah.
That was 95. And it was me, Dave Beer, and Ralph Lawson. And I met at the time I didn't know it, but I met my future wife, Jennifer.
Yeah.
And she was raving away in a little dungarees. And I thought, when I came back a year later, I was like, oh, I hope I see that blonde-haired bird that I was chatting up in some kitchen somewhere. Lo and behold, she came out and saw me and put up with me for a night. And here we are. We've been married for almost 29 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, we literally met on the dance floor. And it's a good story that, some people don't make it, but it's great. And we have a good story to tell about that. And, that's how that went.
Tell us about the back to basics. It's amazing that these nights are still going, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that we're, what are the reunions like now?
What are the what, sorry?
What's the back to basics? Do they do it like often, or is it just
Well,
every?
my mate Davey was ill for a while and thankfully he's gotten better. He didn't make last year's birthday party, but he's really excited for this year's and he's doing a homegrown residence talent. So it's all the resident DJs of Basics history, past and present, who were all going to be on the bill. So it's already sold out, I think. I was
Is
looking
it?
on, yeah, it looks bad. All the first, second, third release have gone.
I went to Jay, give him a shout, Jay Reardon. I stopped clubbing completely for probably 10, 15 years, maybe longer. And then
Yeah.
it would have horrified me the idea of going out if someone's to a club. Someone said that to me last year, but I went to a Thunderdome reunion recently.
Oh yeah, Jay's night. Yeah.
It was incredible. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was like it just felt really beautiful because it's people that are now in the 50s.
Yeah.
And as soon as you walked in, and MC Tunes was absolutely incredible. And then the way the club was set out with the lights and then just everyone was dancing. It's like, wow, it's never left us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah. I'm one. I don't go to many nightclubs nowadays.
yeah, maybe two,
Yeah.
three times a year.
I get up quite early, and obviously I have a business with my wife over here in Florida, which we've had that running for 10 years. But I'll go out now and then. I remember I went to see Mark Farina. Oh boy, about maybe a year or so ago. I have a mate of mine who does nights there. My studio buddy at Narco, Dave, who I still produce tracks with, and we've got some stuff coming out on 2020 Vision, Ralph's label. So I like to get in the studio with him once a week and tweak those creative juices. We do a couple of hours. I'm back home in bed for 9:30. It's great. And we get to mess around in Dave's unbelievable studio with all his gear. And Dave's an absolute wizard in the studio. He's one of the most smartest guys I know.
Yeah, do you know, like it's incredible, and I probably say this a lot in videos, but like I didn't think house music could last. So like I kind of like started with electro, and then
Yeah.
hip hop, and then ev everyone just stopped buying hip hop, didn't they? Like for like probably like in '88, and got into house music. But I thought it'd be a fad. I didn't think like 40 years on, it's still.
Right. I'll never forget. I went to see Public Enemy, Eric B. and Rakim
I was there at the
Cool
Apollo.
J at Rock City
Oh
in
right, yeah,
North
go on, yeah,
in I think it was something like 87 or something like that. And I'll never forget because house was just emerging and everybody was getting into it. I remember Chuck D on mic going, I want all you motherfuckers into house music, get on this side of the building. And it's like, you didn't know what to do. But there was a time, I remember hip hop tracks crossing over with house music. There was all those crossover tracks. That was mainly in London when I was living in London at the time. And it was all the wearing VW badges, Beastie
yeah, I
Boys,
remember that, yeah.
all that nonsense. I went through that as well.
There was a track, Twisted
Cat.
Tambourine, um, Hybrid, that was like a crossover one. Um, I'm not going to sing it. Sound like
Yeah,
Rob
there was the
Schultz.
tracks like Schoolie D, Saturday Night. That was a big crossover track. Public Enemy, obviously. Paid in Full, Eric B. They were all massive. I heard house DJs playing it, and with, you'd have like Dave Durrell at the Wag Club playing Work It to the Bone and then mixing Paid in Full by Eric B into it, cold cut mix or something. You know what I mean?
Um, we're coming up to half an hour now, which is usually a sweet spot. And then I like to end the videos. This is going
Oh,
to be really
my
hard.
cat's come to see us.
Oh, way up. What's the cat
It's
called?
just Willow, my daughter's cat, but we all love the cat.
I always like to end them with like, give me a track that you love. Um, I'd say for you, like, give me one of your favorite techno tracks.
That's a tough question,
You
Paul.
can pick
There's
a
so
couple if
many.
you want.
But if I were to say one of my favorite techno tracks that I always go back to is probably, oh gosh, something like I love Plastic Man, Electrostatic.
Yeah.
It's it's on Mute Records, I think, Richie Horton. It's just beating and it's minimal. It's kick drum just sounds right. I would say that, which I might dig out and play at Basics, because it was huge there. And then I would also say Red Planet, anything by Mad Mike, Star Dancer. Obviously, it's huge, but it's such a class techno tune. There's no touching it.
Yeah. So thanks so much, Huggy. I'm just going to stop recording now.
Yeah, cool.
Carry on the chat.
Brilliant.